Hey everyone, Cell here. I've been storing up quite a bit of loot for a bit of a test here and wanted to make a video presenting the general loot overview from 500 Kingsmarch maps. Now, these are run-of-the-mill Alkengo maps, nothing special about them. I didn't corrupt them at all. I wasn't running 8 modded maps, and I didn't keep track of the quantity or other stats that were on the maps themselves. But, whatever the average is across 500 maps, or maps in general, is what the average will be for my input, because again, didn't do anything special about them. Found regular maps, they didn't have weird modifiers or extra modifiers or fewer, etc. They were all just alk the maps, throw them in the map device. Now, the reason I'm making this video is a couple reasons. One, just to showcase the loot, I suppose, like I said, and to be able to see in aggregate what that is for 500 maps. And the other is to convince you, if you aren't, especially in solo self-found, to be running your maps. Gold is pretty easy to come by. I'm sitting at like 4 mil excess at this point. Never really had anywhere near that amount myself. Tend to run pretty lean in the past, and this league, it just hasn't been an issue for various reasons, but gold is in a pretty good spot right now, I would say, and when gold's in a good spot, maps are great to run through Kingsmarch. The cost is very expensive relative to everything else. Seeing here 20,000 per hour versus crops in total are only going to be like 10,000 or less. So about a sixth of the price. Of course, these aren't running full time. They take 20 to 30 minutes to finish a map. I check mine, 2 or 3 times a day, depending on how much I'm around, or once if I'm really not around, but can still check them. So yeah, for me, this took as few as like 5 days to get this loot, but it's mostly passive as long as you have the maps to put it in and the gold to sustain them, which map sustain is good, gold sustain is good. So the mapper sustain is good. And I'm just going to show all of the loot in game right now in my various tabs before I hop on over to Wealthy Exile for a better breakdown of the loot. Had to end up getting an extra quad tab because I did not have enough regular tabs to put all this junk in, and if I had started with a quad tab, that would be much less of a problem because the stacks would be nicer. But yeah, it's quite a bit of loot, but again, this is 500 maps that I ran, or that I had the mappers run, and yeah, there was a bit of a nerf, just to mention it, to kind of a nerf, I suppose, to running maps through Kingsmarch, and that's because these are generic maps now instead of specific maps. You can't really run them for divination cards anymore. They will still get divination cards, but they're from random maps because these are functionally random maps. However, the whole process is still great, and looking at this loot does not do it justice until we see the actual numbers on everything. So let's hop over into Wealthy Exile. Alright, we're here in Wealthy Exile, and we can see that the total trade value, if you're in trade and trusting Wealthy Exile's evaluation, I don't know how accurate this is because I don't play trade basically ever, but 46 divines were the value, and some of that, I would argue, is like incredibly liquid. So first of all, we're going to skip over some of these things, but divine orbs. I got 6 divines from 500 maps, and that is pretty standard, if not a little low, I would say. It's pretty regular that you get a divine orb back from a set of maps when you go to check them and loot a batch. Same with puzzle boxes. I have 5 of those. Yeah, I would say like these are around average for 500, if not slightly on the low end. The rare scarabs are a pretty significant portion of my 46 div evaluation here, and I would not expect these at all. Um, yeah, I don't keep super strict track of where most of my stuff comes from. Like, outside of this video, I loot the maps and throw it in my stash with everything else. So it's possible I got some rare scarabs in previous batches that I'm not aware of, but for the most part, I wouldn't really expect this to be a regular occurrence, but it is something that will happen on occasion, which is part of the reason you want to be running maps through Kingsmarch Mappers. And up here with the rest of the currency is one of my favorite reasons to run them, which is Life Force. Life Force is something you'll need on occasion in solo self-found, and personally, I don't really like either stocking up on a bunch of Life Force because the stash limit is only 50,000, and that's not really that much Life Force, and I don't want that spilling over into other tabs. And two, I don't want to respec my Atlas passives to do some harvest for a few maps and then switch back after to whatever I was doing before. And I've been doing a lot of different stuff this league, so it's not really viable to keep one harvest tree on permanently. So this is a nice passive source of Life Force without having to specifically spec into harvest. Like, this amount of Life Force I'll be good on for a while, and I'll keep getting more because I'm going to keep running the mappers. Now, in terms of the trade value, it's a bit funny here. I ended up lopsided on the Vivid side, which is really good because that, at this point in the league, tends to be the most expensive Life Force because gambling. And yeah, those are my biggest wants out of the mappers, the Divines and the Life Force specifically. But there's all sorts of other gumball currency you can get via mappers. 336 scours, a bunch of GCPs, between tier 16 and tier 15 maps. 89 tier 15s can be upgraded to almost 30 tier 16s. So let's call that 186 tier 16 maps I got back from 500. That's between a 35 and 40% rate of sustain on those. So that's pretty good. Again, helps kind of tamper the input cost of running maps, which again is already relatively low because map sustain is good and gold sustain is good. And if you can at least partially self-sustain the maps by from the Kingsmarch Mappers, then all the better for it. Annuls. 14 annuls versus 6 divines and 5 puzzle boxes is a little interesting because you seem to be getting less annulments from general ground loot at the moment. And this would explain, like, if this ratio is consistent, that would explain why I haven't really had a problem with annulments compared to other people, because I've been running my Kingsmarch Mappers the entire league. Yeah, other than that, there's a lot of, like I said, gumball currency, general stuff, the occasional rare scarab. The other league supplies are great. I even got a Sacred Crystallized Life Force. Interestingly, you don't get the Oshabi boss fragment back. You just straight up get a crystallized, or a Sacred Life Force here. Catalysts are great for just as general loot, Forbidden Tomes, etc. I don't need to explain every piece of loot here, I don't think, but pretty much it's nice for the mechanics that you'd want to run on occasion, but you don't really want to hardline farm all that much, and or the mechanics that you're wanting a trickle of items from, like with Harvest. But Blight is another one that I don't particularly run too much outside of the league start. So it's nice to be able to get a collection of oils as I'm playing my first character without running Blight, so that by the time I want to do my second, third, fourth characters, if I end up playing that much, or even if I just need more oils for my starting character. It's nice to get a trickle of those and not have to worry too much about, I need a Crimson Oil, but I only did Blight at the week start to get my first couple of anointments. And so now I have to go and do more Blight to get a Crimson Oil or whatever. You can just get them passively. Beyond that, you'll get the occasional moderately rare unique as well. Tier 3s are pretty abundant. I've gotten actually a decent amount of Tier 2 uniques from mappers as well. Got a bunch of junk here that I have hidden on my filter that I accidentally looted. But to that effect, there's actually a bit of a trick you can employ with your loot filter if you want to during, if you're focusing on Kingsmarch mapping. And back in game, just to demonstrate a little bit, that trick, so to speak, is that Kingsmarch is monster level 68. So you can set up your filter such that, say, you don't want to be picking up gumball currency of whatever type while you're out mapping. You don't want it cluttering your screen. Don't want it on your filter, even in big stacks or whatever. Well, because Kingsmarch is level 68, if you're doing, tier 16 mapping by the time you're worried about that, you can set up your filter such that at specifically level 68, you'll show certain things, and outside of that, you won't. So, if I only want to show alterations on my Kingsmarch maps, but not in my actual maps, you can go ahead and do that. You would set up your filter to say, at level 68, show me alterations in any stack size, and then maybe tier 16, show me I'm at 10 plus stack size or whatever. Just kind of a bit of a tip there at the end. But yeah, I would highly suggest, if you're in solo self-found especially, to run your maps, keep these up. This is where I would primarily spend my gold outside of getting crops for tattoos and rune graphs. And yeah, there's a lot you can do with Kingsmarch mappers. That's kind of the general use for it. You could also use it for running your Guardian maps and things like that. That could be a whole video in and of itself. But I'll keep this one relatively short and end by saying, run your Kingsmarch maps. Give them some maps to do. Hire some people. Hire an excess amount of mappers. They only have a 1% chance to die. That's the floored chance anyways. And even if you're running corrupted 8 mod maps, if you have 6 rank 5 mappers, they'll have a 1% chance to die. It's based on the quantity. And I may do another test of 8 mod corrupted maps just to see how they compare. I guess I should also mention, I wasn't tracking the success rate of each map or anything like that, but the vast majority of them completed with 100%. So obviously they were taken for ransom and failed a few maps here and there, completion, people dying, etc. But the vast majority of them, probably 85% or higher, were 100% complete. And that will factor into the amount of loot. You get a lot more loot from a 100% map than you do from basically anything below 100%. So make sure it's better to run as high tier mappers as you can, 6 rank 5, than it is to have a bunch of rank 4s across multiple map devices or whatever. Focus on one device at a time, get everything up to max level, and go from there. Anyways, I hope I convinced you or otherwise showed you some interesting things about the system. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.